Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me live. For everyone who'll be watching the replay, thank you for joining me as well. If it's the first time that we're meeting, my name is Isabel Martins from healthandnaturallife.com, and I work with energy healing, animal communication, anything and everything related to consciousness, to our energy systems, to how we interface internally with our seemingly external environment, everything related to our consciousness, our energy. That's my jam, my passion, and that's what I love to share here. And today we'll be talking about something that was brought to my awareness actually by Michael Brown. Talked about Michael Brown's work in quite a few videos before, especially in the Stop Trying to Feel Better, Get Better at Feeling videos and Intimacy with All Life videos. And this little nugget in particular, he shared in a video interview that I'll look it up and I'll add it as well to the description box below. And it was just a nugget that just landed on my consciousness and its relationship between stuckness and anger. He just said something to the lines of, if there's any area in your life that you feel that there's no movement, that you're stuck, there's probably anger there. So there's anger underneath the surface that you're not acknowledging, that you're not willing to feel, and that's what's creating the stuckness. And that kind of stayed with me for a while. I've heard this, I don't know, probably a couple of months ago, and it just stayed with me, lingered, and started deepening the understanding of, okay, so why? What causes this? How does this make sense? It actually does make a lot of sense when I look in my own life in the areas that I feel that there's a sense of no movement, and it's not no movement, but it isn't the full expression in the way that I know is natural for me. And for instance, for a very long time and still now, finances, money is a big one of those, because when I look at it truly, there's a lot of anger towards our money system, towards what we're forced to play, the rules, all of those things. So there's a lot of anger that isn't being allowed to the surface, and that's what's creating the resistance and the stagnation, or the compression, actually the contraction in that area, instead of just fully letting the energy flow freely. And if you think about your life and areas where you feel stuck, or where you feel that there's no movement, or there isn't the movement that you internally know that's natural for you, there is very likely anger there. And anger is usually a surface already layer of an emotional reaction. If we go to the work of Dr. David Hawkins, just brilliant medical doctor that did brilliant work in the consciousness areas as well, he created what he called the scale of the levels of consciousness. And the bottom of the scale, so the level of consciousness with the least energy emotionally, would correspond to shame. Then you will have guilt slightly above that, so with slightly more energy, but still very low, very close to just almost death. And then you would move up the scale, and then you would hit a point where there would be anger. And anger has a lot more energy than, for instance, sadness or grief or guilt or shame. When we move up the emotional scales, if there is something, for instance, I'll use for my example, money. If there's something in my past that I witnessed around money, and I have with my family, that felt that it was because of money, that they were in pain, that they were suffering, that they were hurt, there is a feeling of hurt that I picked up from them, because I didn't want them to feel hurt, and I associated that with money. Like, okay, there's a sadness here, there's a disappointment here, and that's a lower level. So as I moved up the scales naturally, it started to transform from sadness, from disappointment, from grief into anger. And if I were to allow it to continue to move, it would move up to pride. Then this is Dr. David Hawkins' scale. To pride, to then courage would be a neutral level, to then acceptance, to then love. So the energy would keep on moving, the energy that started as sadness or grief, and it would just heal, integrate, and I would have a normal flow of energy in that area of my life. But as I, from what I see in my life and how I feel, I kind of stopped the energy flow at the anger level. So it's not like I stopped the energy flow, because you can't really stop energy from flowing, but you can keep it in the same level of consciousness, kind of simmering there. And anger is a very appealing and seductive type of energy for us when we have underneath it a feeling of powerlessness with whatever it is that's causing the emotional reaction. Hi, Spanish media. Thank you for joining me live. Yeah, nice to see you here as well. So when we come, one of the reasons that we can get stuck in anger is that we are moving up the scales from levels that feel very disempowering. So for instance, if someone is in depression and they have been in depression for a while, as they move up the emotional scales, the levels of consciousness, they will hit a point where they will feel angry. And if they are allowed to actually be in that anger for however long it's necessary for it to move through them and move up the scales, they will move out of depression, they will move out of anger naturally. But for people, for instance, who come from depression and land in anger, it can be scary to let go of anger because they will be afraid of sliding back down into depression again. And depression is, well, some people say that depression is anger turned inwards. And it can very well be that people reach the level of anger and they're afraid of anger and push back down that energy. And so it becomes a really destructive type of depression. But it can just be that they are holding on to the anger state because it's got a lot more energy, feels much more alive than actually the feeling of depression for those areas. For instance, like it was for me as a child, coming from the sadness, the feeling of powerlessness regarding money. Child can't do anything about it, and I'm seeing my parents struggle. There's a feeling of fear and powerlessness. Coming to anger feels much more empowering, and there is a sort of a resistance to letting go of anger because of the fear of what's underneath it is worse. Powerlessness feels a hell lot worse and much more unsafe than actually anger feels. So it can get stuck there because of that. There's also a really interesting thing that happens, thank you Spanish media, that when we feel hurt or when we feel that someone wronged us for whatever reason, that there's an injustice, that's the trigger of anger, we sometimes hold on to the anger in a very unconscious attempt to punish the other person. And that is twisted logic right there. But we do that. It's almost, for instance, like a child. If our parents do something to us that hurt us, we then just tense up, bottle up the anger, and we want to show them that they did something wrong to us. So we hold on to the anger, we hold on to the hurt state so that they will feel bad, because that's the only way that we, as little kids, can punish them and make them pay for it, so to speak. So that's a pattern that we also have to be aware of, because it is very unconscious, because it was built when we were that young. So sometimes we do stay and linger in anger because there is a perceived injustice, because we're trying to make someone pay for something or someone right something wrong that we're perceiving. And the problem is that when we are holding on to anger, the only ones that pay are us. So because anger is a state that has a lot of energy, like I mentioned before. You know it when you're feeling angry, feeling like a volcano is trying to erupt. And when we push down on that energy, because we're taught that anger only has two possible outcomes: you either suppress it, not healthy, or you express it, and pretty much you push your anger towards something or someone else. None of those actually are a viable resolution of the energy of anger or the trigger for the anger. When you suppress it, I don't even need to tell you what that does to your health, and we know that. But when we express it, and that's something that has been kind of sanctioned in our society. When we express it, it's almost like we're just taking a little bit of pressure from a pressure cooker, so just letting off some steam. And the problem with that is that whatever triggered the pressure to start building inside in the first place is still there. So it will continue to simmer and create more steam that then will need to be released again, and someone else will get the blunt of it. And that's just not a resolution. That's just a way of keeping yourself stuck in a cycle of the same level of consciousness. And when we just have these two options, quite honestly, it's healthier for us to let it out, but it just keeps on spreading the anger, because then the other person is the one that's going to have to deal with our anger energy that we threw at them. Or if we just throw it in the air like shouting or something like that, we're just losing part of our energy instead of actually allowing it to be transmuted and to be integrated. So that's the third option, actually. It's not to suppress or repress it. It's not to express it, although I'll just add a little something here. If you do feel sometimes that you are just going crazy into anger mode and you're going to be run by it, yes, let off some steam, jump up and down in place, just scream to a pillow, do whatever you feel necessary to get you to a point of more balance. But when you are in that point of balance, it's time to, yes, Spanish media, transmute it. So when we want to actually resolve whatever the trigger is and allow the energy that's just moved, it moved from either powerlessness or sadness or grief, it moved up the scales all the way up to anger. We don't want to start leaking it there. We want it to continue to move up the scales until it crosses into the levels of life-affirming type of emotions, and it just moves up the emotional scales until it just becomes love and part of our natural life force again, which is what it is. It is part of our life force that we are cloaking in judgments, in meanings that make us feel, okay, this is anger, there's an injustice, there's something out there that needs to change, that needs to be done, that needs to be fixed. And usually it's this pointing of the energy outward that gets us into trouble and that gets us cycling in anger. And again, because anger has so much energy, when we don't let go of the hold on it, on the injustices, on the meanings, and we hold on to the anger because of that, it creates a stagnant type of dynamic in our energy field. And that's why it gets us stuck. First, it doesn't allow the energy to move up the emotional scales, so it keeps on recycling the same things over and over again. It might be with different people in different circumstances, but it will be same situations over and over again. It's almost like different people, different faces, same things. And we're not allowing new energy, new inspiration, new outcomes to flow through us because we're holding on to the meanings, we're holding on to the injustices, we're holding on to this needs to be fixed, this needs to change. None of that works. What is useful, what does resolve, what does transmute things is for us to just be with the energy, whatever. If you have a technique that you feel allows you to just be with the sensations, be with the energy, not buying into the stories and just letting it move through you, you will very naturally feel at some point that the anger itself starts to do this. It will become relief. And the relief, it really is an indication that you just integrated a lot of your consciousness back. It just moved up the scales until it became neutral, and it just, from then on, energy knows what to do. It's intelligence. You don't need to say, go there, now do this. It just naturally moves and integrates into your system again, and you just create flow and openness for something new to come into your life. And it is with this movement up the energy scales that you're not making it happen, you're just not holding on to your energy at a specific level of consciousness because of meanings or judgments or anything of the likes, or something needing to change outside or even inside. You're just letting it move up the emotional scales, and it's only when the energy starts moving up the emotional scales inside of you that the circumstances, the people have the opportunity to change, that you might have different ideas, different ways of doing things that come to you through inspiration that will change your internal environment and be reflected in your external environment, or you might not even have to do anything. By you naturally allowing the energy to move from stuckness, anger, all the way up through the emotional scales to the positive or the expanding levels of consciousness, it just naturally resolves whatever the situation was outside. Or if it was something that you had a trauma with in the past, you'll notice that you still have the memories of whatever happened, but you don't have the charge. It just very naturally integrated. The energy that was stuck there, it just got integrated into your systems, and you're that much healthier, that much more whole, that much more powerful and free because of that. So this was a case pretty much for us to allow ourselves to see. First of all, we need to be honest, transparent with ourselves and see, okay, I'm feeling stuck in this area of my life. I don't feel that there's movement, or there isn't the expression that I know is my full expression here. Just look underneath it. Just think of the situation itself and just notice, okay, so how do I feel about this? Or what do I have on my energetic emotional files about this situation, or about this person, or about this condition? And notice if there is something that comes up in terms of anger or pride. If you feel prideful about something, if you feel righteous about something, all of those are still signs of anger. So just let yourself allow those sensations to come up. Whatever stories come up in the beginning, you might actually let them come up so that you allow the energy to get triggered inside of you. But after a while, whenever you start feeling in your body the sensations of anger and again, pride or contempt. Contempt is a really big one. It's still a demonstration of pride and of anger, like is rage, like righteousness, like I mentioned. All of those are expressions of anger, just in different types of dressings. Let the sensations come up, and when you feel them in your body, completely disregard the stories, because they're the ones that will keep you looping and thinking that something needs to change, something needs to be done. If you're in that mode of something needs to be fixed, that's a red flag for you right there. Come back inside. Scan your body. Notice where you're feeling the sensations. Notice where you're feeling the contraction or the heat or the energy build up, and just breathe through it, or do whatever you feel that is useful for you to stay present in your body, ignoring the stories, and relaxing wherever you feel the contraction, where you feel the tension, so that you allow the energy to naturally flow through you. And that's all that we need to do. We just need to be with whatever our body shows us. We trigger it, or it gets triggered. Honestly, at this point in our time, in our society, everything is triggering our anger quite easily. So whenever you do feel that you're getting triggered, if you can, of course, come back to your body. Ignore whatever is happening as best you can. Come back to your body, come back to the sensations. You can breathe in and out through the area where you're feeling the tension or the energy build up, because that will help bring your attention, your awareness there. And just imagine that you have a pair of nostrils right there in that part of your body, and you're breathing in and out through it. Not trying to change anything, but trying to just put your awareness there, and as best you can, relaxing the area, relaxing your body, allowing the energy to flow through you, completely ignoring the stories. You can let them come up, but just don't get lost and go with them, because they will run with you. They will run you with them, actually. They will run away and take you into la la land, and that will never be a resolution for anything. So as you do that, as you let yourself be with the sensations, breathe through them, relax, let the energy move, you are integrating whatever energy is available to you at that moment in time, whatever is coming up to the surface, because it is moving up the emotional scales, because you removed pretty much the judgment, you removed the pushing against it, and the energy very naturally wants to flow. It wants to be integrated. Energy does not want to be stuck. It moves. That's the nature of energy. So as we stop pushing against it, relaxing the body, breathing, it starts to move up the emotional scales, up the levels of consciousness, starting to integrate, and you start feeling calmer, you start to feel more relaxed, you start to feel that you're breathing better. And this is how you'll know internally that things are being integrated. And you will see it externally soon in your life. And soon is immediate, so you might not notice something change like magic right away in the situation, but you actually might, if you are engaging with someone and the anger was triggered because of that interaction. As you allow it to move and as you integrate it, you might immediately see a shift in the energetic dynamics between you and the other person. And it's not just with people that this freeing and integration of the energy shows. It will show in those areas of your life where you feel that there's stuckness, where you feel that there isn't movement, that you're not fully expressing the way that you know is natural for you. So it's a big subject, especially for our current times, but it's not, I was going to say that it isn't hard to do, and it isn't really. It's just what I mentioned. Be present with whatever comes up for you in your body. Breathe through it. Don't resist it. But we also know that it isn't necessarily easy because we have a lot of energy sometimes build up on some subjects that kind of run with us and just make us unconscious as soon as we hit it. So it is something that will take patience for some areas. And just be patient with yourself, because there's no point in being angry with anything outside or with yourself. You're just doing the very best that you can, and sometimes things will be easy for you to catch. Sometimes it really won't, but you will still catch yourself. If not in the moment, you'll catch yourself afterwards, and then you'll start the next time, start catching yourself a little bit earlier, until you catch yourself in the moment of feeling the anger start to come up. And you'll just have that little pause, that little moment where you can choose whether to suppress or repress something, express something, or just be with it and let it transmute. And at that point, there is such a feeling of mastery of your own life, of your own energy, that you'll get the juice, you'll get hooked into it, and it will become a lot easier. So let me see your comments here, Spanish media. Scanning. Yeah, it's not just you that have to practice. We kind of all need to practice because we live usually in our minds, in the stories in our minds. We're usually not present in our body. So embodiment practices, anything that makes you feel more present in your body. Meditation is one, but any type of exercise or just reminding yourself throughout the day, oh, let me put my attention in my body or on the soles of my feet, or let me be deliberate in breathing deeply. All of those start to bring our attention from the stories, our la-la land, into our body. And that is very powerful for us because it will show us where we have the resistance to things, where we have the anger, where we have all of our emotional reactions are present and shown to us from our body. So the more that we're aware of our body, the more that we can really consciously, deliberately navigate our lives. And that's powerful, powerful stuff. That's a key to a life lived from a place of feeling mastery in navigating ourselves internally and the external tides that we are moving through. So I hope this was clear. I hope this helps. And if you have any questions, any suggestions, just let me know. With this and with everything else, of course, sometimes it's easier and I'm going to just offer you. I do sessions for one-on-one integration with these types of things with people that are really already very aware, but sometimes there are areas in our lives that we feel unconscious around, because we are really inside of our own bubble, and it might be hard for us to actually see clearly from within the milieu of emotions and stories that we have. So sometimes it's easy and useful to have someone from the outside help. So if that's the case for you, just wanted to leave here a note. Just check the energy integration sessions that I offer. They're always in the description box below. No pushing, no nothing, just if it ever calls you, it's there, I am there, so just let me know. Again, hope this helps. Like, comment, share, do what you feel inspired. Thank you, Spanish Media, for joining me live, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.